managers, marketing managers, and all these people, all of us have to learn quickly is how to forget quickly.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Goodish show. Today with me, Boštjan. Bostjan is an entrepreneur and mentor. He was chairman of and CEO of Storscape, a big company, before he found his own company, Fourth Office, and they are doing a nice collaborative email tool, Loop. Welcome, Bostjan.
Hi, Francie.
Bostjan, we actually met because you were one of our first customers, and one thing I really appreciate about you is that you were our customer and our mentor in a way at the same time. And then when I made the research on you, I discovered that actually you are a mentor a lot in a community. So. Maybe can you show a little bit light on this role in your life?
Yeah, so it's really important for me that you learn a lot of things in while growing up in business and learning about business and learning about oneself, and I always think it's very important to give back. So the community that has allowed me to sort of grow and do whatever I'm doing, I think it's just very important for me to try giving back, and the best way of giving back is actually meeting people that are on the same path and discovering the same challenges, and if they're open to listening, I tend to take the role of sort of mentoring, telling them about sort of the ups and downs of different decisions they make, telling them as well that every journey is unique, but at the same time, learning from others is an important element in on that journey, and I just love doing it. You meet young entrepreneurs with a lot of energy at the beginning of the path. It's sometimes like with kids, you totally see the next obstacle they're gonna hit into, but you can't actually explain that it's gonna happen because they're so full of energy, and helping them go past them, helping them understand what's in front of them, helping them is something I really love doing. To be honest, one of the most let's call them rewarding times is when you can talk with people with that energy and with that determination to do something special in life is really something that rewards me especially as well.
So I assume that this also comes from your experience, because I listened to a few of your podcasts and you mentioned that you had good mentors on your way.
Yes, so I was privileged to have been part of a few really great stories. One was story of Hermes Soft Lab, which was one of the fastest growing nearshore outsourcing companies in Central Europe. I had mentors there, people that worked with me on a day-to-day, but they actually were really great mentors as well. I learned from Andrei Kushchar, I learned from Rudy Bridge, I learned from a few foreigners. I learned from the chairman at the time, a very old English banker, George Barrett. So I learned from a lot of people, a lot of different things. And as I said, I wouldn't say that I always listened, although I should have, as many young people in that phase, you just think you're better, but you aren't. That's what you discover later in life. So really, but it was also sometimes when I sort of felt that I couldn't go to somebody and ask questions. It's also that feeling that, as entrepreneurs, sometimes we are left alone and we are in a position where we don't have somebody to talk with, and helping understanding also there's those moments helped me make that decision that I really love helping other people. And not only did I have, when I was in Slovenia, when you talked about Storscape, it wasn't a big company, it was a small startup, but it was really at that time a very successful startup in the storage resource management space. The newcomer of the year according to Gartner. I had some really great people, very successful, and when I call about very successful, it means, a guy I knew, he owned about a budget of around 10 billion at the time in EMC, a big storage resource management company. And he was a very normal person. The great people in life you meet are very normal, and they are very willing to listen to you. They were very willing to help you out. And I think that compassion, that type of people made me do what I do, and that is, that giving back should be part of the normal thing an entrepreneur should be doing, especially with the experience.
So if someone wants to approach you and ask you, I mean, are those relationships like formal, and you say, okay, now you're a mentoree and I'm your mentor, or more informal, or like how can someone approach you and ask you if you will be his mentor?
So first of all, most of my mentorships I do through Seed, which is a entity here in Slovenia, Center for Executive Education and Development. Their whole vision and mission in life is to have a platform where they bring people together, and so if somebody wants a formal, normally they go through Seed. Normally, if I have the time, and I can't say that I always have the time, but I do have the time, and people sort of connect with me online or somewhere on the channels they can. Unfortunately, I'm sort of an old-fashioned guy, so I'm an email guy. Most of my reactions and my stuff happens when people connect with me on email, but they can do that as well. I can't promise, and if sometimes I don't reply, it's not because I don't, but it's just my days are so full. But if I do tend to reply to everybody that's asking for some help.
Okay, great. So yeah, you mentioned that you're email guy, and also current company, so Loop, you're solving a collaborative inbox for teams. So this actually will be the focus of this podcast. So can you introduce us how the idea was born, and what were your first steps? So how the beginning of this company looked like?
So really, after I left Hermes Soft Lab and Storscape, and that was quite some time ago, I've been in the collaboration space for some time. So I in terms of how I mentor and in what I believe is this is a period where if maybe 20, 30 years ago an individual could make breakthroughs, it's a period where teams and the power of teams is what prevails and makes a difference. So I have always been a stern believer of collaboration. And at the time, about 10, 15 years ago, we started sort of a startup on the basis of providing collaborative platforms that were done from scratch, brought into big corporations in the region. We are quite successful. We still are, although I'm not part of that team anymore. We span it out and sold it. But basically, collaboration has been something I really passionately believe in. And in about 5 years ago, this idea about everybody was doing collaboration in a place outside of your inbox, and the email inbox was a place where you were alone. So what's very specific in email is it's a place where when you're looking and dealing with your inbox, it's just you and the email. There's no people involved in terms of you can't really get in touch with them from your inbox. You have to always go to a secondary tool. So you have these two things where you have all these great tools out there that are providing collaborative features, but then you have your inbox and you spend 2 to 3 hours per day in your inbox where you're all alone. So if you really wanted to solve the collaborative problem, you had to get people to start collaborating in their inbox. And that's really our mission in life, is helping people collaborate within their inbox. They don't have to go to a second tool. They don't have to provide and remember and do the switches between all these tools. So our mission in life was, in the beginning, was helping people collaborate. Now we've extended that to helping them collaborate within their inbox. So what are we actually doing? We're taking an inbox and making it chatty, as I call it. So it's you can take an email and you can sort of invite people to talk about it, about a specific email. So think about a customer situation where a customer sends you an email and you want your team to talk about it and help you provide an answer. Well, using the traditional method, you would send another email to your one colleague and maybe CC another one, and then they would give you a reply and add another 3 people. So you'd be overwhelmed with that one request, giving you sort of another 3 to 4 to 5 emails across the spectrum. Well, in Loop Email, we allow you to sort of invite other people to that email exchange. You can chat with your teammates. There's no CCing, there's no forwarding, all in one little nice stream, so that you can talk in real time with your team, preparing an answer, and then actually at the end of the day sending an answer via email. And although it's email today, we're working hard to bring in all the other channels that exist in today's environment, like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and stuff like that. So that inbox is not only going to be chatty for emails, but it'll at some point in time, in the very near future, also be chatty for messages you're getting from other channels that are important in your life.
Okay, but so what was the first feature you were offering? And which were maybe the most important pivots you made on this road?
So really, we just started with trying to figure out how you bring together what we call that email experience and that chat experience. So the first feature that we brought, and it's still the same feature, it's called looping in somebody. And that is the moment where you have an email and you want to bring somebody from your team into that conversation so that they can see that conversation, but at the same time, you can talk with them privately about that conversation. So there's no, it's like a little micro channel, as I call it. That's related to one specific email for everybody that, because there's a lot of Slackers out there. Slack has a channel-like world where you name a channel and people can then talk about it, where in our world, an email becomes a little channel where the people you involve can actually talk about that email, can exchange opinions, can provide you answers. And that was the first feature we actually described, developed, described, or tried to describe, and then went to Product Hunt to test it out. So the first, we called it looping. That's why it's Loop Email. That's why even our brand, our website is called In the Loop, because what we're really doing is we're looping in other people into an email exchange that is in my inbox. So instead of sending it from the email from my inbox to somebody else's and overwhelming, I'm saying, okay, I've got this email, team, come and join me. Let's look at this together and let's do something with it together. And maybe even I assign somebody to do something around that email for me, including the ability to edit emails together, prepare replies together, stuff like that. That's all sort of part of that equation. So that was the number one feature. That's why it's called Loop, because we are helping people to loop in other people around a specific email. And Product Hunt a few years ago was a place where we said, okay, this is the concept. Let's test it out with some early adopters in the market. We were quite successful that day. It's a one-day event just for everybody. I think everybody knows Product Hunt is a great platform for getting products out. and really the big thing was that it allowed us to basically get some real opinions from real life users about the concept, about the feature, about how to describe it. One of the big things in today's world in SaaS is because everything is so fast-paced and so people have so little time to test and adopt things. It was very important that the feature was simple, that the feature was easy to describe, that the feature was easy to adopt. All the things you were trying to figure out through that initial period where we launched it through Product Hunt.
And how have you prepared for the Product Hunt campaign?
So at the time, my good friend at the time, also marketing manager, Jernej Pavlic, he put a lot of effort into that project. So it was quite some time. I think it took over 2 months to prepare. There's a lot of things, this is where the company comes together. The feature comes together, the copy, the positioning, the onboarding, the marketing stuff, the community management stuff, the content of the marketing. So there's a lot of things that, if you want to be a successful SaaS company, need to come together. Some 10, 15 years ago, you needed to have a good product. Now, really, yes, you needed a good product with market fit, but you also need all the other parts to come together. So really, it was getting the features right, making sure that they're right, getting the moment to launch right, getting somebody that's actually going to launch on Product Hunt, because you need somebody that basically promotes you in that. So you need the hunters, as they are called, and Jernej at the time really put a lot of effort to get to know the dealings with Product Hunt, to get to know how you need to get some initial community up and running, got us involved in getting us to sort of start communicating outside as a company, an engineering company, or inbound looking. And this was a time when you had to be outbound looking, not just as the marketing manager, but as a company as a whole. So it was like everybody was helping out. Everybody was looking for their connections. Everybody was looking for people that knew people so that you could get out there. And, the result was there. I think we were the fourth or the third. We were really among the top, because every day there's about 3 to 5 launches, and you have to be at the top of that pile to sort of get into what they call the next round of comms, because I think they have around 1 million people they send emails to. So if you're one of the top players in that day, they send another email to a bigger audience the next day, and so on. So it's like you have to be successful within the first 24 hours so that you can get more coverage and more awareness in their segment of the market.
So basic idea here was you went to Product Hunt, you get some initial users, and based on the data you got from those users, you then optimize and develop the product further.
So unfortunately, we were not so data centric at the time. But yes, in theory, you're right. It was more empirical. It was not data centric as at the time so much. We should have been, but we weren't. We can talk about the data aspects of that of the marketing journey later. But at the time, it was more. You got a lot of comments. You talked with people. You got engaged with them. People would. I remember there was a guy that actually helped us phrase our words and all that stuff because he was so good, and he said he needed about a day to figure out what this was about. But then, wow, at the moment he figured it out, and it was really it all came together. And then he described the product even in a better way than we did in some sense. So really what it is you're getting all that feedback and you're basically digesting it as a product managers, as marketing managers, to some extent also as engineers. But it wasn't like we were looking at the volume aspect. It was more the qualitative aspect of really early adopters that have seen it before, that have. So it was what I call more a mentoring exercise at scale than a data-centric exercise. I'll talk about another thing we did sometime later that helped us more on the data-centric side of the things. But I wouldn't say Product Hunt is a data exercise. It's actually within 24 hours I think we got probably 50 high-quality mentoring engagements that help us sort of understand what are we missing in terms of product, what are we missing in terms of copy, what are we missing in terms of positioning, all that stuff that you normally fight with on a daily basis. Suddenly you had all these people giving you different aspects and different perspectives of how they see what we have just created and the concept we've put into the market.
So it was more like obviously it was a great learning experience from the feedback. And how did you then went from this? So you got first initial users. So
we learned so from Product Hunt you learned about positioning, and then you basically try to use different channels to try and get the product into a specific sort of segment. So we believe we understood how the product should look, how we should position it, but then it was finding all those buyers. And really what happened then is we probably for a little bit too long went for a freemium model. That was really the big pivot happened about a year later. I think it was about a year later, where we decided we are going to lose the freemium, because what was happening is, although initially Product Hunt, of course, was freemium because we wanted to get the feedback and all that stuff. But then really what happened was suddenly we had this freemium model and we were getting all this big feedback from so many different places, and really what we discovered was we just were getting at some point too much noise from too many places, and what we had to do is get the signal out. And getting the signal out was all about saying, look, if you really want to use this product, we understood what the use cases were by that time, and it was not a single user use case, it was a team use case. Of course, it was a collaborative tool. We went from a freemium to a trial, and I think that was really the big pivot, was when we decided we can't really work on all this input anymore, because we were starting to become everything for everybody. We needed to sort of focus even further, and that this was the moment when we said, if somebody wants to use our product, they have a 14-day trial, but after that 14-day trial, they have to make a decision. Is it valuable enough for their business day to day? And really what happened there is then we had to find a platform where we could get this to as many people from our segment as possible. And we used a company called AppSumo. AppSumo is known for bringing products at their early stages to the market at sort of discounts. But again, they have a really large scale of people. It was not so important that we got a lot of money for it, but it was important that we got real life people that were willing to spend money, because that was really the difference, is getting opinion when people are not ready to spend, and getting opinion from people that are ready to spend. So really the big I call it go-to-market moment for us was when we launched on AppSumo. It was also a critical period in our life cycle, because we wanted to make sure we had a product not only that people like, but also that people are willing to pay money for. And this was really probably one of the best exercises because, again, similar to Product Hunt, you had to prepare. Jerry was working on the project for about 3 to 4 months. And then really you started seeing people spending money on your product. And you had to understand why. And you had to understand what were the drivers, what were they looking for in terms of AppSumo was real life people on tight budgets, giving you the option to sort of solve a problem in their life, and that was really where we understood we believed we had a final market fit, which was a market where people actually liked the product and were willing to pay for it because it solved the real business problem, and really that's where if Product Hunt was more an individual contribution, so people telling us about how it helped them individually. What we saw with the AppSumo pivot or moment in our journey, the important moment is it was how small business owners actually saw it as an important part of their daily work that would help them manage their teams effectively, and really that's where our data journey started, because that's where we by the time we had already started to understand the importance of data, we had put in a lot of data collection elements into both our marketing journey and our product journey, in-app journey, outside of the app journey, and really what it gave us is the ability to understand what is it that makes people then chat around an email. What is that specific thing? And really what that specific thing is we discovered people, that there's still probably 80% of all businesses do not have the budgets to spend on big systems that allow you to do help desk, that allow you to do channel management and stuff like that. They're still working within the confines of their email inbox, but as a team, they have a problem because I'm a manager and I have 5 people and everybody's working in their inbox. So I have no clue who's doing what, how are they replying, who's taking ownership of which email. And as a consequence, it's that pivot helped us understand that really what we were solving is the ability to apply a process around how people and teams manage a customer channel in a small, medium-sized organization, and that happened by people paying us to solve that problem, and that's what they're still paying us to do these days. And so the AppSumo thing was, contrary to the Product Hunt thing, was actually where we discovered how this thing called the loop and a chatty email experience could actually provide big value to a business owner, let's call it a C-level executive in a small company, because really what they were doing is they were trying to solve the big problem of I don't have control of how my sales team or my customer success team is dealing with customers, because it's still being done on email, and email is really not fit for purpose for these kind of things.
Okay, so you were mentioning, I mean, it's a great story, and you were mentioning this data journey because we were at least partly involved with it, and maybe if you can go a little bit deep dive into this segment, because it was quite a unique issue when at the same time you want to track company, but also unique users inside of the company, and also when you have a lot of events like new email and chats and a bunch of stuff people can do in the app, so how to distinguish which are those key actions that that someone understands your product and it's kind of qualified lead for you, and then what to do after it.
So that was really it was the hardest part of the story, but yet it was also the biggest fun part of the story, and it still exists. I mean, it's not like you solve it, but it's like at least you're in the right path. So the theory in SaaS, and every book you read tells you the way how you succeed is you find that core group of users that actually love your product and use it on a daily basis, and figure out what's special in terms of what are they doing that others are not doing, and then go back in the journey and figure out what did they do when they were onboarding, what did they do when they were looking for a solution like that in the market, and so on. So you go from the ending backwards. How do you get to the first core? You do a lot of stuff, figure out, try to get at whatever cost to that initial core. Once you have that initial core, be very, very diligent in understanding what they're doing that other people aren't doing. So what we discovered is, our journey, as you said, was we initially put in, we had a few events where a lot of people were coming in. We were putting in a lot of data collection elements so that we were figuring out what people were actually doing. But as you probably understand, that being in this business, the core thing is signal from the noise. How do you sort of distinguish what's the signal? And it took us quite some time to figure out what our signal was, and it was related to, we were jumping between, is this really a team thing, or is it a user thing? And the interesting thing is that through the years we've been with Mixpanel from the beginning in terms of data collection. You could also see how Mixpanel was also giving you possibilities to manage both the user-centric view, and then they later on added the team centric view, a way to collect data on mass within a specific set of users. And for us, it was more to do with, at a specific point in time, we understood what these users were doing at the beginning. And there's always a core user. There's always a user at the beginning. That's really the critical path. So the critical path we discovered was, we understood what it looked like to be engaged as a team, but understanding how it started and how that onboarding, which we still have not perfected, but we're working hard to perfect it, is how do you sort of onboard that initial user? That there is always a specific initial user. There is a specific way of them onboarding. There is a specific time frame that you are allowed to find him, give him the value. As you know, the quicker you give them value, the higher the probability of success. But it's like, for us, it was understanding the individual dynamics. Then we were discovering the team dynamics of that. But at the end of the day, understanding the team dynamics and then extrapolating it to the beginning of the journey, we discovered there's always one user who needs to have a certain level of behavior at the beginning to make him successful, and it's not about his behavior, but giving him the tools to create an environment where he can invite other people without fearing he's gonna mess up something, giving him the ability to set up the stuff he wants to set up very simply and within a short time frame. So although we were looking at a team product and a team aspect, at the end of the day, the onboarding was always an individual thing, and that was where the big thing was happening in terms of onboarding. Once that one was starting to be solved, of course, the bigger problem then still is now you're back at marketing. So you've somehow got them. You've done all these things, quite expensive, but you've got a set of people. You've discovered how they look once they're engaged. You discover what was special about their onboarding journey so that you can support people in setting up their environment. But then it's also understanding which of the users, what were they looking for in that big world, what kind of channels they were coming through. So you had to do end-to-end tracking. So the products we had couldn't give us that 2 years ago. to changing and measuring somebody when they change from a anonymous user to a named user. Mixpanel introduced something like that about a year ago as early beta. They're quite good at it now. So now we understand exactly from the moment somebody hits our web page to the moment they are not activated in the product, about what they did, how they did it, and as I said, if we're just looking at the marketing side of things, you would think a landing page with 10% conversion is much better than a 2% conversion, but it isn't, because if 90% of the 2% convert in the app and only 1% of the 10% convert in the app, it's a big difference. So you really have to have end-to-end tracking.
If I understood you correctly, currently you are relying mostly on Mixpanel. So is Mixpanel in your case this solution for end-to-end, or are you combining different other analytical tools?
So from a perspective of analytical tools, we use, of course, the whole Google suite for obvious reasons. Plus, Mixpanel is really the central point. Now, I'm not saying Mixpanel is the only one. That's the one we chose a few years ago, and they've really done well in supporting our philosophy. And you can see, they develop the features we actually need, which means a lot of people out there are on the same journey. We of course use other tools for automation, marketing automation. We use tools for. We also look at the data from Google. From the Google data tools, but if you look at end to end, more or less, it's Mixpanel is where the picture. We have an acquisition dashboard and we have an activation dashboard. To be honest, and really what it gives us is a clear understanding of how many new business domains we get per week, and how many of them we convert. Activate per week and then convert per week. That's really the three major numbers. And at the end, it looks very simple, but the journey to get there is believe me, full of noise and full of I call it inroads into different places and sort of nudges where you go somewhere and you figure, this wasn't right, and then you just have to be quick in getting back into line and making at the end of the day a lot of small good decisions instead of one that makes all the difference.
And so this was like the ground base for scaling. So when you have this user journey right, when you understand the key moments, when you're able to measure it, that's the moment when you can then start really going in the market, attracting more users.
I don't think so, because I don't think there's a, as I said, it's all a journey. I don't think there's a moment. I think it's a large number of smaller moments. That's what I believe in. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's like the scaling starts when you basically have enough data to actually be able to push and do a lot of velocity test. I call it high velocity market testing. Because it's like at the end of the day, the tests themselves and on the marketing side these days can be very quick. You don't need 6 month cycles to get the data. Are you good or not? You can do nice tests within a 4 to 8 week period. So really, when you have all that, you have what I call the platform then to do what we're currently in, and that is doing a lot of testing on different channels with different assets, with different components in the market, and really the hard part of it is not only do the tests but do them quickly, have a velocity, meaning the more tests you do, the more I think you have probability of success. But as quickly as you start new ones, kill the ones that are not working. And that is really, again, a process. It's not this is now scaling. It's like when you have that in place, you still need time to get to what I call the sweet spot of things working. But it's like at least you have the platform to have the option of being successful. So now we're in this phase where we're doing a lot of multi-channel marketing. Is it the number of channels that I want to? No. Is it the velocity at which I want to be? No. But it's always, there are constraints in how quickly you can move. But I think at least you're doing the right stuff, because it's not anymore about the product. We believe we have market fit. Yes, you're fixing it, you're doing add-ons, but it's like now you're going out and finding all the different routes to get to your customers, and that in itself is not, this is the channel and this is how we're going to do it. It's a constant fiddling between different channels, between different spend on those channels, between different artifacts on those channels. I mean, marketing assets that you use on those channels. So you need a lot of different things to sort of make it happen, and playing around with those is really what makes it. As one of the mentors I talked with very shortly, about 6 months ago, I met a guy that I think has a budget of about, also in terms of marketing, a few billion. And he said a real marketing manager these days is more like an asset manager. He's playing around with a lot of different what I call campaigns, and he's basically starting campaigns and killing campaigns, and that's really the name of the game, because you need to kill it if it's not working. But how long do you wait for it to start working, and what are the ones you have to start, and how do you start them? What creativity do you use to start them? And so he said it's like, starting things and killing things. Those are the two things you have to work in marketing. The big thing about marketing these days is, when I started, I remember my mentors always saying, well, in marketing you don't know which 50% of the investment is not
lost.
Good. Is lost. Well, the thing is, today so the difference is, today you do know. You just have to sort of have enough small investments in different places so that you can kill the ones that are not bringing at the right moment, not too quickly, not too late, and bring in the new ones so that you can find the magical portfolio. Yes, the magical sauce, but also understanding that sauce is things change, people change, and as a consequence, whatever they put in the sauce for McDonald's today, although it seems the same sauce, they actually change it every year, and you have to do those micro adjustments all the time if you want to be successful long term. So it's not like there's a sauce and then you're successful. Yes, of course you get to a next level, but you have to constantly be working on those on that mixture, and that's a lot of hard work on a consistent basis.
Great. I think that's really useful for our listeners. One more topic I would like to cover, at least shortly. So we were talking a lot about different things you did, from AppSumo, Product Hunt, and tracking and marketing. How do you build a team for this? Because at the beginning you're small, and I guess your team gets bigger. So how do you get talent? How to know who to hire? What kind of roles do you need? Or how do you think about it? How do you decide about those things?
So it was interesting. I listened to a really great product guy about 2 years ago, and he talked about sort of everybody gives you one big thing you should remember from whatever, and I remember him saying is, in the life of a product guy in a startup, there's a period before and after, and what is the difference is, before, you just have to have a high intensity of trying different things and doing everything you can to just get the result. But there's even if looking backwards, you could talk there's a process. There isn't. You just do a lot of different things. And then at a specific point in time, it becomes more governed by process, and you put it into a system. So there is a before and after in this as well, in terms of the team. Unfortunately, we've been around for such a long time. It's not like you're building a team and everything stays. I had a great marketing manager, Jerry, one of the biggest brains of marketing I've ever met. And at a specific point in time, it was time for him, and us to part ways. Not because he was bad or he was good or because he wanted, but it was just, there was a moment where things happen, and that's how things happen in a startup. Things happen, and so. You have to have a little bit of luck, but most of all, you have to have a lot of intensity of looking for, a marketing manager. I spent more than 6 months looking for a marketing manager. I've spent more than 2 years looking for great product managers all the time. We look for different partners we can partner with, and so it's not like there's a process, but in a startup with limited resources. As a CEO and as a team, you know what's missing, and if you really want the solution for the problem, is if you know what's missing, put time and intensity into solving the problem. It's like in a big organization, you have this organization. You say this is the type of team I need. You've got an HR manager. You give them the task; they can do it for you. But in a small organization, I really think it's about okay. In 6 months' time, this is what we need. We need somebody that is able to do end-to-end measurement of the user journey, who's data-centric in terms of marketing, who also understands content, who's been has this kind of experience. And we had to work hard to find somebody, or Anna, who's very data-centric, who's basically building us to get to the next level. But if I hadn't spent probably 40% of my time at the time when we were looking for her, or even more, we would have never got there. So the answer is not do this and this and this, but it is very simple. Put the time into the most important things you have to achieve, and what is the most important thing you need to achieve is there's a really good podcast I had with Patty, the former HR of Netflix, and she always said, if you want to understand what you need from a team, understand what the business needs from that team. So you need to understand, okay, we need to get to this next level. You need to understand those parts that are missing. And if you need to get these kind of results, marketing wise and the stuff I've been talking with, find a person that's going to take over that responsibility. And then find that person. Spend all the time you need in a small company to find that person, because if you won't find them, you won't succeed. You won't be able to do everything and be the Superman in that organization as the CEO. And it was really basic stuff, but very true. So in a small organization, it's not so much about the process. Yes, there is a process when you look back, but you can, as Job said, connect the dots. But when you're in the thick of it, when I mentor, I say to everybody, so what are the 3 things you want to achieve as a company? Okay. Tell me, what are you doing to achieve them? And what always happens is when they put it on paper, they understand this is what I need to achieve, and I'm spending 90% of my time doing stuff that doesn't contribute to the 3 most important things. So just that basic thing of you doing what you're supposed to be doing on a very disciplined manner. And believe me, I find myself many times discovering I'm not doing what I should be doing for various reasons. And I get it, because it's hard. But if there's one thing is, if you want to get a good team, you have to spend time building that team and nurturing that team and getting people in and getting people out. Also important. There are people, not because they're bad, but it's just time for them to find something else. And I was really happy when I had that podcast with Patty. As I said, she was the former HR. She wrote a great book about HR, and really, it's not about liking people, not liking, performing, not performing. A business needs something. That person, you need to bring a person that can take that on their and put it on their shoulders, and they have to sort of help you as a team get it, and really your role as the CEO is to find to get out of their way, which is hard for a CEO, and find the right people to take on those burdens in their capacity in that team. And I know that seems like when I say these things that I'm just perfect. I get it. It's really hard to implement. So don't think that because I know it, it's easy and I've done it and all that shit. It's really, really hard to be disciplined enough to be true to that, because it's so much easier to do the non-important stuff. It's so much easier to do the stuff instead of somebody that's not doing it. It's so hard to tell people that things are not working and that you two should be thinking about how you're going to remedy it. It's really hard to be frank with people and tell them, look, this is the stuff they're not doing well. All this stuff that, in theory you have to be doing and it's understandable you should be doing. And it seems when somebody tells you, like, I'm saying that's so easy. It isn't. It's really hard work and a lot of discipline and a lot of understanding. Things need to be done that need to be done.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's way easier when you're looking back at things and to create a process, and everybody says to you, yeah, focus, and think hard, but not overthink stuff. But when you're into it, it's not that clear. And also probably there is a bunch of day-to-day tasks you just have to do. Someone has to, send out bills, answer emails,
yes.
Talk with people, and all of this is also consuming your energy. Okay. I think, Bostjan, I'm really thankful for what you're doing and for this podcast. I think you shared a lot of great tips and knowledge here. Maybe do you have any end thoughts? As you said, something that people should remember if they listen to this.
So I do, as we started with mentoring, and I talk about mentoring, and one of the things I wasn't doing for a long time, but I do these days, is when I talk about what's important, what's important, this context, this moment in time that we're in. There is things, we talked about focus, we talked about doing the right things and all that. But there's one thing I think that is more important that it has ever been, and it's really hard to understand, but it is true. In this fast-paced world where things are changing so quickly, all of us have to learn quickly is how to forget quickly. We used to live in a world where we had to remember stuff from 15 years ago. Well, I think we're in a world where, a lot of the mistakes, if we don't forget about them, learn about them for sure, but then forget about them, because otherwise they can drain you down, because you can really quickly turn from being positive and moving forward to being sort of constrained by the past. So I think more than ever, it is really important to learn and move on, but moving on means leaving the behind you. And that is not something that's easy, at least for my generation, to do. Our generation loves to dwell on the past, loved to overanalyze the past, loved to do. And so what I teach this, if somebody tells you, you don't appreciate or whatever the past, this is a period where forgetting things and moving on is very important as well. So, it is a moment of taking, consuming, but then moving on and forgetting about the past, because otherwise you're going to be left there.
Yeah. Thanks. That's a great insight. And also, thank you everyone for listening to us. You can subscribe to our channels and stay tuned for another episode, which will be on soon. I don't know when, but soon. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Francie.
See you.